Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to another lecture. For today's lecture, I'll be going through the 2019 CSQ2 on the US economy. Okay, so for this lecture, which will be split into three parts, I'll go through the introduction of this lecture, and then afterwards I would do part E in depth and then part F in depth. So for this lecture, the focus will be on breaking down and dissecting the question so that I know what the question requires of me and I know what to look for in the extracts. Okay, so when I look at question E, right, the first thing I see is accelerating changes in technology might be expected to result in worsening unemployment and redistributional consequences. So I know this is a high order thinking question because of the word discuss, right? And when I see the word discuss, it means that my approach has to be balanced. Okay? It is different from saying explain why accelerating changes in technology will lead to worsening unemployment and redistributional consequences. Now that it's discussed, I need to give a balanced approach. It could lead to such consequences. It could not lead to such consequences. Am I right? So when I look at accelerating changes in technology, I see this is the start point. This is my cause, right? This accelerating changes in tech. And I see worsening unemployment and redistributional consequences. These are my endpoints, right? I have my start point and my end point, and what we are meant to do in this essay is to connect the start point to the end point through economic theory, whether or not accelerating changes in tech will really lead to worsening unemployment and redistributional consequences. When I see accelerating changes in tech and worsening unemployment, the first type of unemployment I must think of is structural unemployment, right? Structural unemployment, more specifically because of the skills mismatch, there will likely be more structural unemployment. And then for redistributional consequences, I would think of in terms of income inequality when I see the idea of distribution, income inequality. But actually when I see distribution itself, right, the one thing that I think of most is inequity. So I know that I'll probably have to engage this area of content in my analysis later. So my key argument 1 and my key argument 2, before reading the extract, I know my key argument 1 would be accelerating changes in tech, explaining how accelerating changes in tech leads to my endpoints. And these two are my endpoints, right? And my key argument 2 would be explaining how accelerating changes in tech do not lead to my endpoint. So how my start point, which is accelerating changes in tech, does not lead to my endpoints. Okay, are we clear on this? So this would be the part E of the question, just a short question dissection to know what we're looking out for when reading through extract 7 particularly. Okay, for question F, suppose that a country decides that its overriding objective was that growth should become more inclusive, right? Discuss the extent to which this can be achieved through fiscal policies. So when I see growth should become more inclusive, right, we know the content they're testing us here is on inclusive growth as a macro goal. So we know that we have to be, in our essay somewhere, we need to define this term. And then we say discuss the extent to which this can be achieved through fiscal policies, right? So here, if we're talking about inclusive growth, that have to be actual growth, have to be sustained growth, definitely we're talking about expansionary fiscal policy, which would mean either a rise in government expenditure or a cut in direct taxes. Okay, so this one, right, for this question, if you can see in another way, I can just say discuss the extent to which fiscal policies can lead to inclusive growth. Can you see that? Okay, so when I have this question, right, you see my key arguments are very clear cut. I'll explain why expansionary fiscal policy can lead to inclusive growth and why it cannot, right? So straight away I know I'll write my key argument 1 is explain how expansionary fiscal policy leads to inclusive growth. And then my key argument 2, I will explain why expansionary fiscal policy may not lead to inclusive growth. And then in my conclusion, I'll just evaluate whether or not fiscal policies alone would likely be sufficient for a country or an economy to achieve inclusive growth. And something unique about this question, you see in part E, right, they specifically quoted a part of the extract and they told us it's in extract 7, right? But for part F, because there is no specific extract that is quoted and there's no specific extract they want us to refer to, we would either have to scour through the whole CSQ, all the 5 extracts, or we would have to come up with our own examples from our own knowledge, okay? So that is all for the first part of the 2019 CSQ2 lecture. I'll see all of you next time where we delve deeper into part E of the lecture, of the CSQ, okay? See you.